Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and these are Charter Moms Chats, where I've been going live on weekdays to talk to families about things they need to know to keep their kids learning during the pandemic. And so it could be things talking about schools that are having open enrollment, could be questions about distance learning or getting your kids safely back on campus. But we also talk about at-home learning activities, like ways that you can keep your kids learning and excited, doing stuff at home while staying safely socially distanced. And one thing that we keep coming back to is that it's a lot safer to be outdoors and in the fresh air. And there's a lot of great things you can learn while you're outside. And being out in nature helps with mindfulness and relaxation, helps deal with stress, and it helps you learn about nature and art. So combining all of those wonderful things, we have two special guests today. So they're both from the San Antonio River Foundation. They popped that up on the screen. And so our guest today, Sara Ramirez, is, let me get her title right, Park Program Coordinator for the San Antonio River Foundation. And Frates Seeligson is the Executive Director at the San Antonio River Foundation. So I'm really grateful to have both of them. I want to be sure to mention that in the description of the video, there's a link to a blog post, a guest post that Sara put together, and it has a really fun at-home learning activity that relates to water purification. And we're going to touch on that today, but we also want to speak more broadly about the education series that they do, which is called Nature of Art, and the different partners that they work with. And then, but San Antonio River Foundation does so much more than that. And so we're going to talk about that today. So thank you so much for being here. And my first question is going to go to Frates. So I want you to tell us about the mission of the San Antonio River Foundation, because it just, a lot of people know that the river is here, but they don't necessarily know about the organizations that are supporting it and getting the word out about it.
Exactly. And Inga, thank you for having us on today. I'm excited to be here. So you're right. The river's like an onion. There's lots of layers and lots of different groups, all working hard to steward it, which is wonderful, and it makes San Antonio a unique city. Basically, the mission of the River Foundation is to preserve, enhance, and transform the San Antonio River Basin as a vibrant cultural, educational, ecological, and recreational experience. So we do that through any number of ways, but that's the kind of the 30,000-foot mission of the River Foundation, and that it's a mission that we always go back to with any of our efforts, and make certain it touches part of that mission.
And that it relates to those, as you mentioned, cultural, educational, ecological, and recreational, that there's so many different uses and meanings for the river. So I wanted to ask also, now there's other organizations that have San Antonio River in the name. Mm-hmm. And if you could sort of talk about how the San Antonio River Foundation is interrelated and supportive of those organizations.
Sure, and that kind of goes back to that onion metaphor, analogy, I guess. So the San Antonio River Foundation, we are the nonprofit partner of the San Antonio River Authority, created in 2003. So we're just, about, 17 years old. The San Antonio River Authority is a governmental agency. They're a taxing entity. The San Antonio River Walk Association is a group that promotes the downtown loop. So there's all these different San Antonio River entities out there, and I can understand how it can be confusing. But we are the only, really, the nonprofit that's charged with stewardship of the river. When we were established, the San Antonio was embarking on what we call the San Antonio River Improvements Project, which was roughly the $384 million public-private civic project here in San Antonio. And at the outset, the River Authority realized there was no avenue for the private sector or individuals like ourselves to become vested in the project. So that's why we were created, because we can take donations from citizens, from corporations, whereas by law, the River Authority can't. So also, by law, the River Authority is very limited in what their monies can go towards. They are really good at they're wonderful engineers, and they can build a project that can take care of flood water, and they can actually put in some trails, but they can't fund amenities. So there's no money for art, for public art. So the foundation invested our monies in to take the public project and make it exponentially better through public art, through enhanced landscaping, through better, the project would have a bench in the plan. We're like, well, let's make it an art bench. And so we raised the money to make it just the project be that much better for our residents and tourists alike if they choose to come. Um, all of it is back to, we want people to immerse themselves in the river and the history of the river. That's why we're all here. And through our outreach efforts, Jane Goodall has a wonderful quote that if you if you don't know, you won't care. I'm paraphrasing, please. But if you don't know, you won't care. And if you won't care, if you don't care, you won't act. Right? So we're trying to show people the way that they can start to learn, and then they'll start to care about the river and the whole creek systems, and then they'll become advocates and stewards. So that's kind of our goal, is to make the river once again part of everyone's daily routine. Historically, that's why we came. The first peoples came here, the Spaniards came here. It was everyone had a tie to the river on a daily basis. We want to recreate that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, San Antonio wouldn't be here except for the river. But the city has spread out so much that, people may not encounter the river as much, but they can know that they're welcome, and that they should, and be, like you said, if they know, then they can come and see the amenities that the River Foundation added on top of the engineering and the, logistical practical things that the governmental entities did. Like, so they're in charge of flood control, but y'all are in charge of making it interesting.
Yeah. Well, not to disparage what they do. They do an amazing job, but it's not as fun. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, Frates, that's a great explanation of like what the River Foundation does and how it fits in with the meaning of, making the San Antonio River accessible and important to the people of San Antonio and the tourists too. So my next couple of questions are directed to Sara, because I wanted to, her specialty is education, and I want to focus on, how families, right? Because, we are an education website. So I wanted to ask you about, like, what are some ideas for how families can get their children interested in what's happening with the San Antonio River? How can they enjoy these amenities that Frates was talking about?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the best way to actually get kids interested in river conservation is actually going outside and enjoying the river. So we have a number of beautiful parks with the River Authority that we help program and provide these gorgeous amenities for. So just go outside, go to Confluence Park, go to any of the art portals by the Mission Reach, and spend the day enjoying life along the river and see what the River Authority and what we, the River Foundation, are doing to kind of improve these public spaces to make them more accessible for everyone in the community, visitors and tourists alike. I'm such a big proponent of experiential learning. That's really just the best way, I think, that you can really get out there and form this bond with the river and nature and animals and everyone alike. I help with the River Authority education team. They normally have field trips at Confluence Park during the year. Obviously, this year was different. But one of my favorite conservation messages is just that the river is not only important to us as people, it's home to a lot of different animals. So if you're polluting, if you happen to, throw a piece of trash on the ground without properly disposing of it, that's likely to end up in the river. So you're putting trash in the homes of these animals, of turtles. So that kind of really drives the point home that it's all up to us. It's a personal responsibility, but it's such a big impact on the entire ecological system, And in that way, it shows kind of the importance of every individual person. So no matter who you are, no matter how small you are, you can make a big impact. One thing that we like to tell kids on field trips to do too is encourage your mom and dad to use reusable bags rather than using the plastic bags that come at the store, and that's a huge impact. I mean, how many times as an adult do you forget to bring those bags out? But if you have your child, your niece, your nephew there to kind of encourage you, say, hey, mom, dad, like, let's take the bags with us. That's, you're already making such great change. So yeah, I think that's a lot of what the kind of messaging that we try to spread to you. So a big part that you can do as the adult caregivers is follow us on social media and sign up for our newsletter so that you know about these public programs that we do. We partner with like-minded organizations. We put up free programming for everyone. And with that, we try to spread these conservation messages in some accessible ways. So yeah.
And I might just jump in, Inga. I mean, Mother Nature graced our area, our city, with lots of creeks and rivers. And what I find so beautiful about San Antonio is that they're spread out on the west side, the east side, the north side, the south side. You can be on Leon Creek, and on the far west side, you can be on Salado Creek on the east side. You can be Salado Creek on the north side even. You have the San Antonio River that goes down the middle. You have San Pedro Creek on the near west side. So we're cognizant at the foundation about equitable access, right? And not everyone can get to a park when they want to. We know that. I mean, we see the numbers. But with the cities, with the Howard Peak Trailway system, with the San Antonio River Improvement Project, with San Pedro Creek Culture Park, what we're realizing is these creeks are wonderful ways to tie our community together, and access is equitable, and it's a beautiful thing. And at Confluence Park, where Sarah does a lot of her focus on education there, we also, we have raised an endowment to help pay for the costs of transportation for the school districts. Not every school district can afford to send kids on a field trip. And so, the foundation really strives to get people outdoors and realize that it's not, being outside should not be a luxury. Right? It should be something that everyone can do. And we have the resources. And so it's just showing people, we have to show people how to reconnect with their creeks and rivers again.
Right. I think, my message to the San Antonio Charter Moms community, right, the folks watching this video and reading the blog post and in our Facebook group, like a lot of us are the very engaged parents. We're the ones who do enrichment stuff with our own kids. We're the ones, going to Confluence Park, for the activities, or going for walks on the greenway trails. But one thing that we can do as the involved parents is like speak up to our PTAs, speak up to our teachers and school leaders, and say, hey, are you aware that Confluence Park is a great place to go for field trips? And sometimes making those introductions, making those connections, it helps build it. So I feel like that we have this like parent power in the SA Charter Moms community, that's what I'm so grateful for them, because they help good ideas to spread, and getting kids out in nature, and doing it equitably, right? Like, because you guys are helping bridge the gap of, right, if if a teacher needs a substitute, right, there's funding for that, and for to pay the transportation, and these are like very accessible, low cost or free programs, and it changes how being out in nature, it changes how kids look at the world, right? And I think one of the challenges of the pandemic is that kids do spend so much time inside. If they're doing distance learning over Zoom, or we're not going to festivals or concerts like we used to, and so we try to be very deliberate about, finding reasons to get out of the house, and like being connected with nature, like looking for the turtles, looking for the fish in the river, noticing changes like leaves changing color or falling, and just feeling more grounded and more connected with what's happening in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I have a kind of a follow-up question about education that I want to direct to Sara. So, Sara, you mentioned that about like field trips at Confluence Park in particular, and that typically it's in person, and that there's lots of partners that y'all work with, right? Like the Southwest School of Art, and then I guess what you helped bring to us for this guest post was an activity that families can do on their own. So I wanted you to talk more about like sort of this activity, but especially like the context of like, the range of activities that you guys are going to be presenting as far as like virtual learning that we can do during the pandemic.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that question, Inga. So that's such a great point. That's during this pandemic, we're not able to engage in person as we normally would. That was a huge pivot for not only us, for everyone. So with our summer camps, we normally have those at Confluence Park in the education center, and then kids are able to explore the park and the river during the day. This year, out of necessity for the safety of everyone involved, we decided to move to a virtual platform. So we host Nature of Art with our partners at the Southwest School of Art. And every week we bring in a new science ambassador that teaches the kids about their field of study. And we have a lot of people in the community that we work with too, such as the one that we're talking about today, which is Ryan Beltran with Elequa. So that's a nonprofit here in town, and their program is the Make Water program. And basically what they do is make these water purification kits by process of something called electrocoagulation. So it's really neat. These are kits that are normally distributed, something that Ryan puts together on his own, and then you can either purchase these kits on his website. He does lots of free giveaways. He works with different schools. He works with the San Antonio water system too. So it's a really great program that's kind of made its way through San Antonio. We wanted to bring this to our Nature of Art camp kids. So we partnered with Ryan. We bought kits for every single person within the camp, and then distributed that along with their activity kits that included a lot of different art supplies. So basically anyone who signed up for this camp got this free kit of art supplies, as well as a specialty pack with whatever their community partner was doing that week. And it was just such a great camp and lots of great lessons. We wanted to extend that learning from Nature of Art, but also to be more accessible and have a wider audience that we wouldn't be able to have during our summer camps. So we extended that through a partnership with Southwest School of Art. I've been working with a wonderful filmmaker by the name of Ramon, and we've been partnering with our community partners and making videos about what they taught during the summer camps. So our first one is with Elequa and Ryan and the Make Water program. And we are sending kids on an indoor scavenger hunt to get all the materials needed to make their own eco-coagulator kit at home. So within the blog post, you'll see that there's lots of alternative materials too. So one example is a filter. So we suggest a coffee filter, but you can use any number of things. You can use paper or a t-shirt. You can get creative, which is a big part of this program too, and try out something new altogether. And that data you can send in to Ryan with the Make Water program, and he'll add that in, and we can use that to make the system better. So yeah, it's a really great collaborative program, and something I hope that everyone will watch the video and try out at home. We had fun with these videos because we were able to kind of cater them more to Confluence Park and the San Antonio River. So you'll see within the video that Ryan actually tests out water from the San Antonio River. So we get to see how that water matches up based on this water purification system. And then we dive in a little bit about benthic macroinvertebrates, which are organisms that live in the river, and those are great water quality indicators as well. So there's tons of great resources in there. I hope everyone will read the blog and watch the video and try this out at home. And we're going to be bringing you more fun videos in this series as well.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the video because there's different ways to access it, right? Like, so like in the blog post, it talks about what materials, but it's not a real strict list of materials. It's kind of what you can find, and that keeps the cost down, and it makes it more, more creative and more of an adventure, and then like in the video, Ryan is demonstrating how stuff works. So you're not necessarily, guessing. And then like there's the Instructables post that he created, and there's like a PDF that you can download too, and that talks about all the different steps. And I like the fact that you can give them feedback too. So like there's an email link in the blog post. So you can just click on that and then send in the feedback. So
yeah, absolutely. This is a continually evolving project, which I think is what makes it so special. Is that it's something that the community is collaborating to make better each time they try it out.
So I have another question for Sara, which is, can you give us a preview of any of the activities that are coming, like maybe that relate to some of the like public art on the—
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
The next one we're going to be premiering, I'm really excited about. So it's going to be all about the Donald Lipsky sunfish, which is the art piece of the fish swimming under the I-35 overpass along Camden Street. And so we are partnering with Fishing's Future, another amazing nonprofit organization. And they're talking all about the sunfish. So kind of giving you the background on the ecology of the fish, which is a fish that can be found in the San Antonio River. And they give a lesson on responsible angling. And each of these videos ends with its own conservation message too, which, in this case would be how to be a good angler, how to be a good environmental steward. And yeah, it's really fun. You get to kind of dive in more and learn more about this beautiful sunfish from the experts too, which is very cool.
Mm-hmm. And just a little backstory on the Donald Lipsky's piece. Originally, he proposed goldfish. And the foundation came and said, we love the idea of the fish, but we want it to be a native species. And so then we switched to the red-eared sunfish. But yeah, and the artist, Donald Lipsky, was totally, he agreed wholeheartedly. But yeah, the first design was a bunch of goldfish. So I'm glad that it's actually now a native fish, and Fishing's Future can do something underneath and talk about stewardship and ecology.
That's really cool. That's a fun piece of trivia. And it's hard to imagine it being anything but the sunfish because they are so iconic. Like that's I guess for anyone listening to videos hasn't been, so the fish sculpture, it's near the San Antonio Museum of Art, between that and the Pearl, and it's in the underpass there's an I-35 overpass that goes over the river, but as you walk on the Riverwalk, it takes you like under that bridge, and that's where you see the fish. And like in the daylight, they're lit up kind of by reflections off the river, and then at night, like they're lit up from the inside, and they look like they're swimming like above.
Yeah. And that's an example. All the art on the museum reach is an example of the role the foundation played in the project, because there was no money for any of the underpasses. There wasn't even money to power spray. And so the River Foundation decided that we were going to invest our money to put the art under the bridges, to make that walk from downtown up to the Pearl something memorable. And so that's just an example of how we injected ourselves into the project to make it a little bit nicer for people.
Yeah, no, and those are like some of the most memorable parts of the river now, right? Like the grotto and like the soundscape. I'm probably getting the title wrong, right? But there's a sound installation.
Yep. That's Bill Fontana's piece on Jones Avenue.
Yeah. No, that's a really fun. I took my kids there for a pandemic walk. we were restless, and it was like the week of Thanksgiving, and the kids are out of school, and I thought, okay, we're just going to change it up, and let's walk along the river, and they've got it decorated for the holidays right now, so it's just gorgeous. And, yeah. No, it's a great place to go. I guess this leads into kind of the next question about. I want to ask about, like more areas where the San Antonio River Foundation has had an impact, and on things like Confluence Park and the Mission Reach and the Museum Reach, And so I think maybe Sara could talk more about the sort of the conservation education part, and then we could switch over to Frates to talk more about the arts and culture kind of part. So so Sara, tell us more about like, kind of like what's on the horizon as far as like conservation education.
Yeah, we've got a really exciting project coming up. So late October, we just announced the North American Friendship Garden, which is in partnership with the Canadian and Mexican consulates. So the San Antonio River Authority is going to be planting a pollinator garden in the corner of Confluence Park. And so it's a little patch right now that's a little underdeveloped, and they'll be adding in pollinator-friendly plants. And then the River Foundation will be adding some fun amenities, including art benches and a bug hotel and a seed library. So rather than a little free library, it'll be a library where you can go and get native seeds that you can go and plant in your garden. So that's really fun. That's something that we'll be working on coming into the new year. And then we're hoping to debut that next year on Earth Day, April 22nd.
That's so fun. It seems like I remember coming to Confluence Park like right after it opened, and then I also went just like a couple of weeks ago just to like kind of see what was new. And I noticed that like there it seems like every time I go, there's more stuff added. And also the plantings will mature, right? So there's an array of like native grasses, and I think when I went before, they had like just been planted, and now they're mature, and so you can see like the differences among the native grasses and how they look in different seasons, right? And there's like a new set of steps that's being built like from kind of the river level up to the park level. So it's just constantly improving.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. The staircase just finished too, not too long ago. So I encourage everyone to go out and enjoy the steps. They're really beautiful. So it's a nice entryway into the Riverwalk.
Yeah, it is. It is. Okay, well, can you comment more about, like you mentioned fish, and I mentioned like the grotto and the sound installation. But yeah, if you talk more about like the arts and what kind of cultural attractions there are along the river that the River Foundation has been involved with.
Yeah, certainly. And I kind of look at it. We were talking about the pollinator garden, and you think of the flowers that bloom to attract the pollinators. Well, the foundation wanted to attract people to the river. It's a better way than public art, right? And so over the past 17 years, we've commissioned and installed over, I think it's 22 different public art pieces. You mentioned the grotto and Donald Lipsky's fish, but even south along the Mission Reach, each of the four. So there was a historic tie between the missions and the river. But as we know, a river is a living thing, and it's going to meander and move. And then we also know that the Army Corps of Engineers channelized the river and made it into a trapezoidal ditch. And in the process, we lost that connection. So when the partners in the River Improvement Project were working on what we call the Mission Reach south of downtown, we wanted to try and reconnect that historic linkage. And so we just came up with this idea of art portals. So at each of the four missions, the foundation has commissioned an artist to do a portal. And a portal it's more of a conveyance, right? It's a way to get you to stop and to pause and to then continue the path up to Mission San Juan. Or if you're at Mission San Juan, to see something down on the river that catches your eye, so then that you then are lured down to the river. So, with these art pieces, they're designed to inspire exploration. They're designed, art is subjective. Let's have a conversation with our kids about what do you think, why is Arna Kinza's piece Whispers by San Juan? It's vibrant. The colors are vibrant when you're going south, but when you're coming north, they're industrial. Well, is it because one, he was here in San Antonio during springtime when he saw the wildflowers, and that was his inspiration for the color palette. But also when you're walking back up towards downtown, you're moving from what's almost a rural area to an urban area, and you can see the Calumet refinery, and it's more industrial, and so Arna wanted to reflect that. And so we want people to go and families to start having conversations, like, and then hopefully go on to the missions and learn about, the incredible history we have in these, in these missions and mission culture. So, as Sara was saying, she partners with Elequa and Southwest School of Art. We also want to work with the National Park Service, to try and tie in our whole, this whole community. We have such a rich history, but yeah, so we've used public art just like a flower in a pollinator garden, and to get people to just to pause, and once again, it all gets to that end story of making the river part of your daily routine, or the creeks. San Pedro Creek Culture Park has beautiful art. So, and even, Sara's work on nature of art camps. It's nature and it's art and it's science, and it all comes together at Confluence Park for the summer camps. But the kids they're looking at dragonfly wings under a microscope, but then they express their findings through art, and they're using paper mache, right? So we want them to learn about the science, but also learn about how art can be a part of that. I mean, it's fun.
I've definitely noticed what you mentioned about that, like when my kids and I have been walking along the Riverwalk, along the Mission Reach, and then like we see the one of the portals, like one of the sculptures, and stop and look at it, and like on Arbol de la Vida, like looking at the how each object hanging from it is crafted, and like, oh, I wonder who made that one, and but it sometimes from river level you can't see the missions, right? The missions are all along the river, but they're out of the floodplain a little bit.
Exactly.
So and so you don't necessarily see, and like, I mean, the river could be so much lower than the level where the missions are built, but it does make you stop and wonder, and then kind of look at your app and be like, wait, where are we? Oh, we're up there. Hey, let's go have a look. Right? And like, we've walked the loop like from San Juan to Espada and back. Like that's within our with our range of how much we can walk in one day, right? So we were able to see like 2 missions and 2 portals in one little loop there, and it does, yeah, it's a motivator.
Yeah, well, as you know, Inga, I'm a father, I'm a parent. Discovery is an amazing thing with children. The whole process of discovery, and it's almost like a drug. Once they want more and more and more, and so make the river a place to go discover things, and it's free. You don't have to pay. You don't have to pay an entrance fee. It's there for everybody. So, yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and Sara's activities and working with all these partners, it does bring the art and the science together, so that people don't have to feel like they're just developing one side of their brain or the other. That they can and they can have fun with it and get their hands dirty. And like Sara said, experiential learning is the most impactful, because you're actually trying to create something, and you're not just reading about it or hearing about someone else's experience. You're living it yourself.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hearing from both of you all about like, how the River Foundation came to be, like how it's added so many amenities to the rivers, to make it so that people come and use it and see it and enjoy it and get all these benefits from it, and Sara talking about, ways to get kids involved, whether it's through field trips or through, these like, art kits that they pick up, virtual programs. I mean, I think you both have made a really compelling case for why the San Antonio River Foundation is so important. And one thing I want to be sure and tell the viewers and the readers about is that you guys are doing a campaign to raise $25,000. And let's see, this is where I bring up the URL. So this is where folks can go to donate. So it's SA River Foundation, sariverfound.org/donate. And also there's a link in the blog post that we link in the description. But I was wondering if each of you wanted to comment about like, why the San Antonio River Foundation is important, why this campaign is important, why it's important for members of the public and, for corporate donors to be involved in, in supporting the San Antonio River. Frates, you want to go first?
Well, sure. As I mentioned earlier, we live through donations, and philanthropic foundations and corporations and individuals like the three of us. Um, and we're often, we also talked about how there's so many different entities on the river, and I know, I know thousands of people enjoy the public art and have no idea that we're the ones who have to maintain it. And when a light goes out in the fish, we have to put the light back on. And all of our efforts, everything we do is free. And so it really, we're 100% reliant on the grace and giving of our community. And we've been able to do, we've raised over $40 million in our short little lifespan. We're a small office of three, but of that 40 million, we've given back 87 cents in the form of public art and enhanced landscaping, and programs at Confluence Park. So it's an investment that pays you back, in my opinion. And we do have an annual appeal, as you mentioned, a $25,000 goal. COVID-19 has hit all nonprofits really hard this year. We decided at the outset of the virus and the pandemic that we were not going to solicit money, that we're going to direct people to support the first responders, the food bank, local businesses, restaurants, people who really needed support more than the foundation did. But over that same time, we've seen our usage in public green spaces up, 83%. It's been a wonderful escape for all of us during this pandemic. And, we have not been able to fundraise. We have not been able to have functions at Confluence Park because we've all been quarantined. But, the public open spaces are important. And all of the nonprofits who steward them, whether it's the foundation, the River Foundation, or Hardburger Park Conservancy, Breckenridge Park Conservancy, all of us have been handicapped because we haven't been able to fundraise, but we've also been an outlet for the whole community. So we have an ask out, and those monies are so we can continue to inspire not just everyone, our kids, but visitors and adults alike to enjoy and steward the river. So, Sarah, Don.
Oh, did Sarah freeze for a moment?
Sarah?
I'll give her a chance to get
She might have
reconnected.
frozen.
Oh, there she is.
So to answer that question too, I just wanted to emphasize that everything is free of what we do and what we put out to the community. So the educational programs that we're talking about, we try to eliminate every single barrier, just like with the Nature of Art summer camps. When we pivoted to virtual, tuition was already very low, compared to other summer camps, but we eliminated tuition altogether. We delivered free art kits to everyone. So these would be art kits that they could use throughout the camp, but also, just in perpetuity, they would have a brand new art kit that they could use at home. We really try to target the underserved communities and serve that community. Confluence Park is in District 3, which is a historically underserved community. So it's really important for us to both invest in the community and be able to serve everyone as well. And we, provide programs for all ages and everyone. One of our most popular programs is a Sunday yoga with mobile Om. And so that's something that we provide too. And we partner with these organizations, but that's just another way that if you support us, we can continue to support our partnered organizations and help to amplify their voices. I want to emphasize fully that we are completely dedicated to serving our community in a multitude of ways. And your donation will go back to you. And we just have a lot of planned great things on the horizon. I think we're all looking towards 2021 with a lot of hope for a better future. So you can be assured that your donation to the River Foundation will come back to you fully.
Yeah, I hope that through this blog post and this video, you guys have done a great job explaining like how the San Antonio River Foundation has left its mark on the river. Things like the museum reach and the mission reach and the public art and Confluence Park. This is part of what brings tourists to San Antonio. And even though tourism is very quiet in 2020, it will come back. Right, the world will reopen. We will be safe again. Tourists will come back, and the things that the flowers in the pollinator garden, right? Like Frates said, that's what's bringing people. And to make sure that there's a legacy of the next generation of San Antonio citizens caring about the river, being knowledgeable about the river, and wanting to protect our rivers and streams. That this education component lays the foundation for that. And it's important that it's not just the sort of the active parents like me, who are always plotting out. And what Freda said about the traffic on the river and the greenway trails going up, I can totally see it. I mean, we've been using the parks and the trails a lot more than ever. We were already kind of using them, but like now we're like frequent flyers. and partly like we've been getting the word out about like, people ask me like, well, I'm looking for a trail. It's not too rocky because the tree rolls in the backpack. I'm like, oh, I know the one for you. Right. But, I hope that these habits continue. But, I think that this campaign that y'all are doing is very important because it means that the resources will be there for the programs to continue at Confluence Park and for the field trips to continue and for families to continue to pick up the art kits, and that it's done through an equity lens of trying to make the river as accessible as possible to people from all parts of the city.
Well, it is our river.
Yeah, it is. It's a big part of what makes San Antonio unique. And we'll continue to do so. And I'm really grateful that the San Antonio River Foundation is safeguarding that, in the ecological sense and also in the cultural sense.
Yep.
Okay. Well, do y'all have any kind of closing thoughts before we wrap up the video?
No, just a big thank you to you, Inga. This was great. Really, love what you're doing, and glad that we could be a part of something.
Yeah, thank you so much, Inga. We really enjoyed our time. So we really appreciate you getting the message out.
Well, that's great. Well, I'm really grateful because we now have another activity on our Charter Voyage of Learning guide, and we're going to be sharing those out over the holiday break because with a lot of stuff closed, I hope that families at home, they can build their own electrocoagulation water purifier based on Ryan's Elequa project, and because it looks really cool. Okay, well, thanks, y'all, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you, Inga.
Thank you, Inga.
Have a nice holiday.
Thanks, you too.